Google recently added notebooks into Gemini, a powerful new feature that merges NotebookLM and Gemini and gives you a useful way to organize all your Gemini chats. But confusingly, there's a lot of overlap between what you can do with notebooks in Gemini and what you can do with gems. After using these new features myself for several weeks and even asking the Gemini team directly how they're using notebooks and gems, I put together a clear system that will show you when you should be using notebooks and when you should be using gems. Let's first take a look at an example of each of these, gems and notebooks. Right now, these features can be accessed on the web version of Gemini. So coming in here, you'll notice on the left, we have notebooks at the top, and under that, we have gems. Let's look at one of my notebooks. I'll open up this one, which is called Gold Panning. Up here at the top, you can see all the sources that are included inside of this notebook that I've added. There are 47 of them here. Opening this up, you can see that this is made up of PDFs, articles, and YouTube videos all about how to pan for gold. Closing this and clicking on the three dots here and clicking on Notebook Settings, you can see I've set up custom instructions for this notebook to act as a guide to teach someone how to start panning for gold around Boulder, Colorado. And then finally, down here are all the chats that I've already started from within this notebook. You can see I've already asked it a few questions about how to pan for gold. And this notebook can also be accessed directly inside of NotebookLM. If I click on the top right here where it says NotebookLM, that will open it up in NotebookLM. I can see all the same sources over here on the left, and I can see all the chats that I started in Gemini in here as well. Gems, on the other hand, have a lot of similar features, but look a little bit different. So returning back to Gemini, I'll come over to the gem section, and let's look at this gem I set up called Perfect Profile Photo. I'll click on these three dots to edit the gem so you can see what it's made up of. Here you can see a description of it. I'm using this gem to edit photos to make them look perfect for social media. Down here are the instructions for the gem, telling it how I want it to edit the photos for me. Then we have a default tool. This is the tool that will be used every time I use this gem. In this case, I'm having it create an image for me. And then finally, I've also uploaded some knowledge as well. In this case, it's just a PDF that goes over best practices for editing profile images. But I could upload as a source, files, anything from Google Drive, something from Google Photos, code, or even a notebook from NotebookLM. So to use this gem, all I need to do is click on it, attach an image, and submit it without further instructions, and it will know exactly what to do. Both of these examples, the gold panning notebook and the perfect photo gem, take advantage of the strengths of both of these features. But as you saw, there is a lot of overlap between what the two of these can do. So let me break down for you why I chose to use a gem for this use case and why I'm using a notebook to learn about gold panning and the exact system I've created for determining when you should use each. There are a few questions I always ask myself when making this decision, but broadly speaking, notebooks can be thought of as a workspace or a research hub where the AI learns with you and improves as time goes on. A gem you should think of as a tool. It has a single purpose, and it produces for you a predictable and reliable outcome every time you use it. And returning back to my examples, you can see that in action. This gem is a tool. Every time that I use it, I want it to do the exact same thing. Create for me a cleaned up image. But meanwhile, here, this gold panning notebook is my collaborative workspace where I'm researching and learning about how to pan for gold. As part of that process, I'm going to go off on my own and find articles and videos that I can then add to this notebook. Other times, I may ask Gemini questions, but every time I do that, I don't want to have to start over from scratch. I want it to already have the context of what I've covered already and what I've chatted with it about. That way, it can begin to connect the dots and bring all that information together for me. As I become more advanced, Gemini understands that and adapts to learning and responds accordingly. All of that is possible because here inside Notebooks, it has all your sources, it has all your past chats, and when you come into the settings, you can turn on notebook memory, which will allow the notebook to consider all the chats in this notebook when responding. As my research hub for learning about panning for gold, I also have quick access to NotebookLM, where I can easily create infographics, audio overviews, and explainer videos. For my perfect profile photo generator, I don't need all that. It doesn't need to learn more about how to create perfect profile images as time goes on. It already does it very well. And this isn't something that I'm actively researching. I just need to be able to use this the exact same way every time I come in here. So that is the general framework. But with that said, you should always ask yourself the following questions when determining whether to use a notebook or a gem. First of all, do you need to organize all your chats in one place? Both of these features do that to some extent, but notebooks do it so much better. In fact, if you come into a gem, you'll see that you only are able to see your 3 most recent chats with that gem. With notebooks, on the other hand, you can see your entire notebook chat history all in one place. So if that's what you're looking for, that is definitely a win for notebooks. Along the same lines, if you need a workspace where it learns from prior chats, in that case, you most definitely want to go with notebooks because gems just doesn't have that capability natively. But there is something you can do with gems that you can't do with notebooks. Share them. If you come into any of your gems in Gemini and click on the 3 dots on the top right, you can share this so anyone else can use it. And that ability doesn't really exist with notebooks. You can come into a notebook on NotebookLM and click on share on the top right. However, if you are using that notebook in Gemini, like I'm using this notebook in Gemini, you will notice that the share icon is grayed out. And that's because you can't share notebooks that include chats inside the sources area. So effectively, that means that if you want something that you can share, you have to use gems. The other advantage of gems is that you can choose a default tool. Remember, inside of the perfect profile photo gem, I selected as my default tool to create an image. That way, every time I start a chat with perfect profile photo, I do not have to tell it to generate an image. It will already know it because it is selected by default. Inside of notebooks, you can't do that. There's no option for it. Now, all these tools are still available. You'll just have to manually select them. It isn't a big deal, but if you want that quick seamlessness where you can just select a gem and then tell it to do something or just give a photo and it will know instantly what to do, then gems definitely wins out there. And finally, it's also worth considering how easily the tool integrates with NotebookLM because both of them can do this. Inside of a gem, you can, like I showed you before, choose as a knowledge source one of your notebooks. But this integration isn't as seamless or as good as using notebooks. Because when you use a notebook, if you want to make changes to NotebookLM, you can easily add sources here. You can easily click on NotebookLM to go over to it, to use it in here. And that capability doesn't exist with gems. So if you're looking for the most seamless integration with NotebookLM, that win definitely goes to notebooks. Let's now bring this framework together with some examples. Let's say I want to create something where I give it a transcript from one of my YouTube videos and it creates timestamps for that transcript. Well, let's look at the checklist. First of all, do I need to organize my chats? In other words, every time I ask it to create timestamps for me, do I want all those organized into one folder so I can reference them in the future? In this case, the answer to that is no. After it creates the timestamps for me, I never have to see that chat ever again. Second, do I need it to learn over time? And the answer to that one is also no. I just need it to create the timestamps for me once, and that's it. It doesn't need to remember past videos. Third, do I want to share this with other people? Well, maybe. I'd like to be able to share this with other members of my team so they can create the timestamps for me. And then finally, do I need it to integrate well with NotebookLM? In other words, is this a research project that I'm going to be adding to as time goes on? And the answer to that is also no. Once it learns how to create timestamps and I set that up, that's all I need it to do. So clearly, this would be a better fit as a gem. So now I can come into Gemini, click on the left here where it says Gems. We'll scroll down to where it says Gem Manager, click on New Gem, and I can set up a gem in here telling it every time I give it a transcript, just output for me timestamps. I would also choose as a default tool Canvas so that it can be neatly organized on the side. But let's say I want to then take the transcript from all of my videos and store all of them in one place so I can easily reference them in the future. A place where I can ask questions like what videos have I worked on already and maybe get ideas for future videos. Well, coming over to the checklist, Do I need to organize chats? Yes, definitely. I want all my chats organized in one place so that I can see the prior research that I've done for videos. Do I want it to learn over time? Definitely, because I want it to get better at helping me come up with ideas for YouTube videos. Do I need to share this? Well, ideally, but the interest in having it be able to organize chats and learn from those chats over time is more compelling than my need to be able to share it. And then finally, I need this to integrate very well with NotebookLM because that is where I will actually start storing the transcripts. So clearly, this would make a better fit as a notebook. So coming over to NotebookLM, I can come back to the home page. I can create a new notebook in here. Then I can either upload files that contain the transcripts or literally just upload links to my YouTube videos. Then coming over to Gemini, I can click on Notebooks on the left, find this notebook, open it up, and start chatting with it. I could ask it questions like, what videos have I worked on already? What videos should I work on in the future? And it will remember all those chats and be able to help me better every time I use it. And every time I post a new video, all I have to do is click on sources, click on websites, and add the links to my new YouTube videos. So in summary, if your work is expanding and building on itself, use a notebook. But if you just need a predictable task that is repetitive and requires a strict format, then build a gem. So now you should have a good understanding of how to use notebooks and gems in Gemini, but you're not done yet. Because to get the most out of this system, you need to learn everything that you can do with notebooks in Gemini, because there's a lot of really cool use cases. And for that, I have an entire video right here. In fact, if you click on this video, I will show you 5 incredible use cases for notebooks in Gemini that you can start using today. So make sure to click on this video and I'll see you over there in 1 second. Bye for now.